other obligations.
Okay. Janna, I met Janna in our Plastic Pollution Coalition, and for the last, I guess, year and a half or so. And she was the first one who presented the SB 1383 and the rollout using the methodology of community-based social marketing. And so she's agreed to come and tell us about the whole SB 1383 from Salinas Valley Recycles perspective, and also kind of show us, how she's applying that methodology to that rollout. Janna.
Okay, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Is there a weird black box on it moving around at all? Okay.
That's good.
Okay, perfect. I can actually see you. How lovely. All right. Well, thank you, Lori, and thanks for having me here. I'm so excited about all this regenerative soil talk and discussion of organics and all of this, because that's what we've been talking about now for days. So let me kind of roll through this. I can't see my notes, so I'm going to just kind of be going off the cuff, and I can't see everyone. So if there's anything that comes up as I talk, feel free to ask or put it in the chat, and we can talk about it when I get to the end. So I'm Janna Faulk, Recycling Coordinator for Salinas Valley Recycles. Yep. So Salinas Valley Recycles covers the area that's the tan portion of this map. We have a transfer station in the city of Salinas and a transfer station in Halone Road, and all of the waste in this area goes up to the Johnson Canyon landfill. We also have 3 closed landfills, 2 in North County and 1 in King City. So the 270,000 people that live in this area, all of the waste from there goes to the Johnson Canyon landfill. All of the other portion of the map that's on the white, that all goes to the landfill in Marina, and that's also shared with many outside contracts. So they have a lot of waste coming in from Silicon Valley, and now, if it got approved yesterday, waste that was previously going to San Benito. But we do not take any outside waste on a regular basis, nor have that material shared. So when we throw something away, where does it go? Well, this is away. We have over 462 million pounds of garbage is buried at our landfill every year. And that we estimate is roughly 5 pounds of garbage per person per day, if we allocate that, which is about throwing a backpack away a day. So that's a lot of waste. And granted, it's not all generated in your homes. This is commercial material as well. But once we even it out, it goes to everybody. This is what a landfill looks like at the very beginning. Here you can see this landfill cell is almost done. There's a pile of C&D material at the top. This is our newest landfill that was built in 2019 and now has several feet of fill on it. But when it's done, it'll have 200 feet of garbage, or roughly 20 school buses full. Our landfill cells here last about 6 to 7 years, depending on how fast we fill them and how well we can compact it. The Marina landfill at Monterey Regional Waste Management District, they're filling about the same amount of volume every 2 years. So you can just think about the difference in volume coming to the 2 facilities. So we knew that a lot of the material going into our landfill was organic waste, and we get a lot of that as packaged material because we are the salad bowl of the world. Unfortunately, all that beautiful lettuce and other vegetables we grow here don't all make it to market. And so we invested through a grant from Cal Recycle in a depackaging machine, so it can take this material, pull out the organics, and then the waste plastic can go out and into landfill, but the organics can be composted. This is a picture of the mixer that once the lovely green salsa that kind of comes out, we call it our salsa verde, gets mixed with some overs, some wood chips and fines, and then composted. So material goes in packaged, comes out as green salsa, and empty packaging material that goes to landfill. Unfortunately, it's just not clean enough, and it's too many mixed materials to be recycled. So with that grant, we also installed an aerated static pile composting system. So these big tubes blow air into these lines, and they are filled. This is at the beginning. This is all covered now with compost, but there's windrow compost styles on a low air pad and a high air pad, so that they get different treatments over the time. But this really helps break down the compost faster, and it's giving us the ability to do a better job with food composting, because we hadn't been accepting post-consumer food scraps. So we have all this lettuce and all of this going in, but we didn't have the ability to take, plate scrapings. So now that's all changed, and this is one of the reasons we've been working on this composting for so long. This is the chart of extreme temperatures throughout time, over all the recorded temperatures, and this is our average global temperature over time. So as you can see, things just keep getting hotter, and it doesn't appear to change, which we all unfortunately know in this group. But one of the main contributors is methane. There's been a lot of laws that have focused on the carbon output, but methane is actually 84 times higher greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, because it traps heat that much better, even though it's a short-lived climate pollutant. So the state said, let's try to target these short-lived climate pollutants, and they created SB 1383, which went into effect this January. The goals of 1383 are to reduce the levels of organic waste going into the landfill from the 2014 baseline by 75% by 2025. That's coming up very fast, so we have a lot of work to do to get to that. And then additionally, they wanted to take all of the potentially edible food out of the landfill. They don't want that edible food going there. We want to feed people first. So what is organic waste? Organic waste is food scraps, green waste, so anything from your garden, leaves, grasses, and then any clean wood, lumber, pallets, etc. It can have some wood, some nails and staples, and all of that can get pulled out, but the wood does get recycled, and we don't want that going into the landfill, because as I mentioned earlier, methane is a big proponent, and methane is created when these organic wastes decompose in a landfill, so in an anaerobic environment, whereas in an aerobic environment, so something with air, like our aerated stack piles, it does not give off the volume of methane. So why are they focusing on organic waste? Well, one of the reasons is that there's a lot of food that California and the world throws away every year. And 1 in 8 Californians are food insecure, and 1 in 5 are children. But this was data from prior to COVID. And I believe it's 1 in 3, if not 1 in 4, 1 in 4, 1 in 3 children now in Monterey County are food insecure. So we really want to make sure that the food gets to people that can eat it and not just throw it away. So Salinas Valley Recycles has been working on this for quite a long time. It's been at least 5 years in the making of forecasting this composting process, working with the organics collections and getting all the pieces in place to be able to pick up organics, and then also food rescue and donation. We've purchased 2 food trucks for Monterey County Food Bank, and are working as a county-wide entity for the SB 1383 Food Recovery Technical Advisory Committee, trying to figure out a full plan going forward. Part of 1383 requires jurisdictions to increase food recovery. And so we're doing that as a joint, because food insecurity doesn't know jurisdictional boundaries. So there's no point in doing that just for the city of Salinas, because we know that it's, we want to work together and make it the best we can do. So when I'm talking about edible food, I'm not talking about food that's been on a buffet line. I'm not talking about something that is food scraps on a plate. We're talking about whole good edible food that could be given to somebody else to consume, not something that we're thinking about as gross. All of the gross stuff comes to be composted. We want to get all the edible, all the packaged, clean, healthy food to people to eat it. And so in this first year, the biggest generators, so the grocery stores and the food distributors and wholesale vendors, so all of the large facilities need to ensure that they have a food recovery plan in place so that they have a contract with a food recovery entity, and that they're not intentionally destroying any food that could be eaten. And then in 2024, the biggest change is that the large restaurants and all of the schools and big hotels will also be required to donate their edible food. So we're working on that. So as I mentioned, we have a food recovery TAC, and we have a plan now drafted by Blue Strike Environmental is the consultant we've been working with, and we are putting the pieces in place. We'll hear in the next few weeks if we got the large grant from Cal Recycle to do some of this work, and hopefully actually put that plan into action. So what does organics waste look like in a business? There's all kinds of things happening, but typically a lot of the vendors that you'll see have a yellow cart right now. So Green Waste started with yellow carts, so did Waste Management for the business organics collection. So that's all the food waste goes into the bin and gets recycled. So now we have a full 3-stream system with food scraps and yard waste going into one, your bottles and cans and paper and glass going into recycling, empty, clean, and dry, and then everything else goes in the waste. So now that we're taking food scraps to the curb, we have a big problem with contamination, and we knew that going in because our yard waste carts, the ones that don't have any food scraps already, come in looking a lot like garbage from some areas, unfortunately. But when we are adding in food scraps, we know that that's going to be even more of a concern. So the pile that you see here, all of those little bits of plastic actually are bioplastics. Maybe not all, there's probably a good portion of plastic in it as well, but that's been curing and breaking down for 6 months, which is longer than those materials say they take to break down. And what will end up happening is all those bits get cleaned out and sent to the landfill. So we have decided we're not taking any of the bioplastics or any of the fiber type clamshell containers for 2 reasons. One, they don't break down all the way and they end up looking like garbage. And 2, a lot of them have chemicals like PFAS, which you may have heard about, which is basically like a Teflon coating, so that that fiber container doesn't soak in all of the good spaghetti or whatever you put in it. And when it goes through the compost, those chemicals stay in it and never go away. And the farmers don't want any of that in their product. But they also don't want to put anything that looks like plastic, even if it's a, quote unquote, natural or biodegradable or earth-friendly plastic. They're still not going to purchase compost that has plastic in it. So we didn't want to this isn't just a new program. We want to actually effectively change behavior. So that's taking psychology, social marketing, and turning that into behavior change through a process called community-based social marketing. So we took a big chunk of money and had a plan created for us for community-based social marketing, which included a literature review of all the other studies that have been done, mailing surveys, in-depth interviews, and then benefit barrier research, and now pilot testing to how do we effectively change behavior of people in their homes. So right now we're still in the middle of testing. They did bin flips or checking bins in the study area in Soledad this week, and next week will be our last testing. All of the residents in the entire area, as you've probably heard by now, can start utilizing the program. We have pails available, but our real outreach starts next month. We're technically launching this on Earth Day. And we wanted this beginning few months to kind of hone in on our message. So we have a new website and all kinds of information on our website with food collection at home. The district also has a link for this on their site with a slightly different information, just in terms of where you can pick up a pail. But really, we worked really closely together to make sure our acceptance list is the same and we're trying to get the same messages out. So we're across the line saying no bags. If you are a residential curbside cart user, so if you have a green cart that you'll put all of your food scraps and yard waste in, You won't use any bags, biodegradable or not. If it grows, it goes is our big tagline for Salinas. And we have our new billboard up in Soledad. So as you're driving down Highway 101, you'll get to see that we love our pink donut up there. So go check it out. And then soon you'll start seeing, we'll have print ads going out in some things and electronic ads, and we'll try to get this kind of all over the place, getting people in the know about what they need to do. And all of this messaging was honed in from that community-based social marketing, where it was like 78% of our surveyed residents feel that helping the climate change is important. And so honing in on that message, and honing in on why, we're using them to reduce landfill waste and make compost. We're actually creating something new from this. It's not just something to do. So we took their creation of they're on our website right now. There's a double-sided page in English and Spanish that has all this information, and we're going to be getting this trifold printed soon, so that at events and things we will have a handout for those that don't want to utilize the QR code and go to the website, because we know that there's certainly a certain population that would like to continue to have something in hand. And so this is a bilingual message to send out. If you would like to come to our compost, our last one, we think at Jardín del Sol, March 26th, so next weekend, come out and see the team. I don't exactly remember what the kids' art activity is, but it'll be something fun. And those that come can get a backyard compost bin. Or out of worm bins right now, but if you want to have your own worm bin, we're happy to get you set up with worms. And then the other thing is that Sun Street Station is closing, and the household hazardous waste facility and recycling services will be moving to Republic Services. The city of Salinas has long wanted Sun Street to close, and we've worked for the last 20 years on trying to decide a plan to move. And this is the plan that finally got decided by city of Salinas. So come out to Sun Street before we close, and after we close, we still will be available for all of our outreach services, and then free recycling services, and the HHW will be at Madison Lane. But if you want to pay our gate rates, you got to drive down to Gonzales. So the Public Services will be setting the rates for the gate there, and it's looking like it's going to be a significant increase to customers. So just know that if you're coming to dispose of at Madison Lane. Hopefully you're all aware of what goes where. It's the best resource for finding out where to put what. And now we have a new employee who's been keeping up with that. So if you do find errors, please let us know. We tried to go in and edit all the food scrap information. There's a lot there. So we're still working on it. So, you guys are all working on changing the world. So thank you for that. And here I am for questions. So, and I do have some slides with like HHW and other things. So I didn't know if there was any other bigger questions about what we're doing. So Karen.
Hey, Janna, I moved down here from a Republic Services area in the East Bay of the Bay, San Francisco. And one of the big surprises for me was that I could no longer put like a soiled paper towel would be my most frequent one when the dog and the cat have accidents in my green soiled paper product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we decided to, as we're opening up this program to residential, once we open it up, there's never going back. And so unfortunately, what we all know about wish cycling and putting things in the recycling cart, then have a long road to the landfill. The same thing happens with compost. So if we put in a lot of things that can't be composted or are not great for the compost, then it'll mostly get pulled out at the beginning, and that's just cause more cost to compost, because compost is certainly not free. So the reason we decided not to go with the paper, food soil paper products, is mostly because of the PFAS problem. So the PFAS is that Teflon type material, and there is a lot, it's everywhere. Now there's a lot of laws for landfills, and landfills needing to manage PFAS and making sure nothing's coming out of the leachate. We have all these very sophisticated leachate collection systems and testing of that, but unfortunately, not everyone in the state has the same system, and not all landfills have the same product. And we anticipate that that is going to move forward into requiring that compost also doesn't have PFAS, because that then just gets applied right to the ground outside. So when we talk about paper, there's a big line of paper, and we don't know. Compostable and biodegradable are two very different things, and not everybody knows the difference. So we're just going to limit it, make sure that we can control what we're getting. Also, one of the concerns here is that we still haven't quite gotten row crop farmers to be interested in regenerative soil because of food and safety concerns. It's one thing when you're talking about orchards and vineyards and things that are going to either grow in from a tree and be off the ground, or are going to be cooked and boiled. Or that's why we get to use the purple water pipe for all the artichokes, but nobody's growing spinach from recycled water. And so there's the difference there. And so some areas compost everything, but they sell it to a very different market. And we're trying to hone in on what this market is going to be. Part of the law, I didn't really cover, requires each city in the state to buy back a large portion of this compost. And so we want to make sure what we're providing is something that's going to be utilized. Otherwise, we're going to have parks covered with 3 feet of compost because they're not going to have anywhere else to put it. And we want to make sure it's the most beneficial use. So long story short, we're starting as focused as possible. And if we get different processes or we figure out ways to do things better, then we can start adding to the program, but we don't want to open up the floodgates. Make sense?
Follow about, it was a surprise to me that I could put a pizza box, for instance, in the blue bin.
Well, and that's very interesting, because if you live in the city of Monterey, your recycling goes to Monterey Disposal. If you live in any of the other peninsula towns and you have green waste disposal, it does go to Marina. So the Monterey Regional Waste Management Districts, MRF, they have found that they have enough of a buyer for cardboard that does have grease and food on it, whereas Monterey Disposal does not find that valuable at all and doesn't want it. So in the city of Monterey, no greasy cardboard. In Marina, it's okay, we think. I don't know. Yeah, constant confusion. And for those of you with green waste, maybe they have also decided that they are no longer going to be accepting gable top cartons, which are the cardboard milk cartons. So those are no longer a recyclable product. Yep. Wow. So
Okay.
Laverne, you had a question?
Yeah, Laverne.
Okay, yes. Well, first of all, Janna, you gave a thorough in your report on what you're doing, and it was so clear. But I have 3 questions, and I'm just going to repeat them now so that they can hopefully be answered. Well, one is a comment, one is a compliment, what I just said. The other one is when you talked about food insecurity for kids in Monterey County, it's like, ugh, it grabs me in my gut when you think of somebody in a county like Monterey, not having enough food, particularly children. And so you're talking about programs to be in place to get, edible foods to, I don't know where it would go to, organizations or whatever, so it won't get thrown away and it goes to these people. Is this something that's in place now, or is it something that will be in place? That's one thing. And I have 2 other questions.
Okay, say them all and then I'll
Okay.
go.
Okay, okay. And the other one is, the other two are the ones that I mentioned when I gave my report. I was so rapidly thinking about that. I went right into the report. So I apologize for
Oh, that's
doing
okay.
that. However, that is not what the question is and I don't know if you can answer this since you work with
Yeah,
Salinas.
I can touch on that.
But I want to know if Big Sur is inclusive. And I want to know if there will be a waste management training that, we can be involved in. So those are three things.
Yeah. So first on the food recovery, there are so many programs happening simultaneously, and the majority of it is based on the food bank Monterey County. They do amazing work, have great outreach, do a lot of connecting. However, unfortunately, there's some interpersonal things, and we're working on building our relationships to be better partners. How would I put it that way? So we see that there's a need to connect more and get out there. The bigger problem is if one restaurant has one or two lasagna pans, the food bank isn't necessarily the best place to pick up that food and get it back out into the community because they're doing large scale distribution. So the biggest point of our action plan is to figure out how do we get these new generators that are now required to donate food, how to connect them with people that need food or connect them with people that know the people that need food. So we're working on building that. Right now, a lot of the things that have happened in schools over time has been government required programs. So they have all these free food programs or, eating. The kids all have to take one of, 3 different things. They have to take a certain amount, but then they were also told the kids couldn't take it outside the cafeteria. So if the kids didn't eat in the little time they had, then all that food was going to waste. So just recently, like right before COVID, the state approved a traveling apple policy where kids could take an apple and a granola bar home with them or out to recess or something. So they could take a little bit of food home. So we have a little bit of sharing happening, but now we're trying to expand on that. So at the end of lunch, when there is food left over, how do we pick up, however many milks didn't get used before, the expiration date, which is a use by date, or how do we get a pile of apples and bananas or Uncrustables or whatever the delicious food of the day was out to people who need it. So we're looking at ways to connect people. The problem is the way the regulations are, the government says the school can't go give directly to the community. So now we need a third party to come in and pick up that food and bring it to someone else to deliver. And there has to be documentation and all these things. So we're working on planning that out. There's some amazing programs in other areas that are taking kind of like, the ugly fruits or the produce people didn't want to cook with or don't know what to do with and making amazing things and serving the community. So we're looking at lots of different ways to do that. There's some like basically a food truck business where they can come and pick up the hot food, put it into small like to-go containers, and then go feed the homeless with that. Like there's a lot of different ways. We've been talking a lot with the new share center in the city of Salinas because they do have a new commercial kitchen that's being run by Mission Outreach that potentially we can work with them and doing some like repackaging or serving bulk. And we're working with I'm not even sure who is running it, but there's a family resource center next to a school in Salinas that it had been doing some meals. So we're going to try to figure out if we can get school leftover food there to distribute. So there's lots of these little pieces we're trying to figure out. We know that the main Monterey County Food Bank does an amazing job with their focus, and they're the one that have all the data on the number of people they feed and bags they give out. But that's just the bigger side. On the Big Sur thing, I don't really know what that's about. I'm not sure, but I did send an email to you and to Liz Hall, who is the local waste management outreach coordinator, and she is going to be hiring more staff right now. Her previous boss left, and now she's doing like 4 hats worth of work. So we'll get her in the mix. A lot of times when people call waste management, they talk to somebody in Fresno or at a call somewhere and they don't really know, but she is the person that will help figure this out. I know that it's really complicated with long distance and places that are, have different weird driveways and different things. So I'm not sure what happened with those cards, but yes, anybody that is in their service area and can get organic service should have it, and that should be reinstated. So there's no difference in the Big Sur green waste carts as there are in the city of Marina or elsewhere.
Yeah, we have a way of getting them down to the highway, those of us who live,
Yeah.
in the mountains. So we do
Right.
have places for pickup. A few, not many,
Yeah.
not enough, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, but so as far as you know, you're
The
not sure about
county
going
is
on.
required, in terms of training. So basically Salinas Valley Recycles and Monterey Regional Waste Management District have been coordinating with all the haulers to make sure the program's clean and clear. We all decided we're not going to do major outreach until starting April, because we knew that a lot of these things were going to come up and we're going to figure some stuff out. For instance, at the beginning, the district was thinking like, oh, well, if somebody really wants a bag, maybe we'll let them use compostable bags. But we felt that was a really confusing message, because we're basically telling people, sure, go use a bag. These are twice as expensive as a plastic bag. You think you're giving yourself a pat on the back for using a compostable bag, but when it gets to our facility, we're going to cut it open and take it out anyway and throw it away. So we don't want to get that message out there, and we don't want to just add more work for ourselves. So as that messaging was going out, that they were like, well, if you really have to, but then people were really confused. So now we're going back to nobody gets a bag. If you don't want to compost your food scraps, that's kind of, we're going to kind of do the best we can. It is very unlikely you're going to get contamination charges if you are not putting food scraps in your green bin. You will get contamination charges if you're putting in plastics and things that are not that. The new law does allow for contamination charges if you're putting things in the trash that could go in the recycling or the compost, but I don't see any hauler or any jurisdiction directing the haulers to do that, because that's not the goal. Our goal is clean. Whatever we get, if it's clean, it's better than anything contaminated. So if somebody's going to
Well, we
contaminate,
would like to have, excuse me, we would like to have our containers back.
oh yes,
so we
absolutely.
can start using them. Unless we,
Yeah.
I mean, we need those.
I
They're
know,
getting taken away, so we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't either. And so you'll see, I added you on an email, and hopefully,
Anna's on it.
yeah, hopefully you can get that back
Thank
soon,
you.
because
Thank you.
that doesn't make any sense. So on the training, you will be seeing, it's mostly in April or the end of this month, that some of the newsletters will be coming out from all the haulers. So you'll see something from Green Waste and Monterey Disposal and Republic that has some of their information. And then all of our advertising will be going out. That's kind of regional wide. And we don't have any plans for any community style training. But if there's something that you can think of that would be really helpful, or questions that are not answered on our website, I'd love to hear that, because we can add. One of the main questions we get is, well, I don't want a kitchen pail, or I don't want, that big thing sitting on my counter. So we, our website, we added a whole picture list of what other people do. So how do you collect your food scraps in the kitchen? I don't personally like it on my counter, so I got one of these inserts that I use, so it's all in my trash together. Some people like a bowl in their sink, some people don't. So those are the kind of things I want to be really clear with people. Also, there's a lot of talk about, well, I want to use a bag because I don't want it to smell, or I don't want my cart to be dirty. Personally, I don't care that the bottom of my green cart is dirty. It's got a nice thick crust of coffee grinds in it at the moment, and it's just a little funky, and it's my trash container. I don't care. So, but for those that are, you can put baking soda on the top of it. You can keep a 5-gallon bucket next to it, fill that 5-gallon bucket through the week with a nice sealed lid. That way, the day you go to put out your cart, you can dump that bucket in, and then it doesn't sit in your cart all week long. And also it can potentially, if you do have raccoons in your area, to keep that out. So there's lots of little different tips on there. And if you are in our area, you can figure out where to pick up a bin. All right, Robin, I see you have a hand up.
Yeah, do you have representatives in the cities that you service that you're working closely with? Like, who would you be working closely with in the city of Salinas, for instance? So when we start doing some trainings, we have someone to coordinate with where we live.
Yeah, so the city of Salinas, really, it's Adam is the new manager there. Liliana is still helping a little bit, but it's mostly us and Republic Services that will do that that coordination and presentation. And we are happy to go to Rotaries. Sarah is our primary point of contact for Salinas. She's our new recycling technician, and has already done several different Rotary presentations. We're happy to come out to a community meeting or something like that. The one big thing that we're not exactly sure how we're going to tackle yet is the multifamily housing, because multifamily, first, the service has to be set up. So when you're a resident, you get your green cart included in your service. So it's a package deal. Whereas in multifamily, you have to pay extra for organics. And so then you need to have somebody come and figure that all out. And then contamination is a big problem in multifamily. We know that because the recycling is very contaminated. So finding that balance and figuring out how it's going to be maintained in multifamily is a big lift. And so that's actually one of the things we're really excited that Lori's going to help with.
Which is why I raised my hand. And so as you can see, this is huge. It's hugely important. I loved your slide, Jen, of the hottest years and stuff. That was awesome. I would like to borrow that. And listening to Janna and Zoe and learning more about this SB 1383 that is required by everybody, it was like I just had an epiphany, because it's like should be the top of our list, and it's also a gift to us, because unlike the fracking ban ordinance that we got passed and the public water, which they're both caught up in courts, and this is given to us as a gift from our state legislators, that we've already identified the most important thing we can do for climate change, and everybody has to do it. It's a law. So, but as you can see, Janna, they can't do this outreach on their own. And she said she was following the principles of this social marketing, community-based social marketing. And the key principles are there. You have to have personal contact, feet on the street. I mean, all these aspects that only a local community organization can do. And so I've spoken with some of you about how we want to, and Susan Myers is helping with this, how we can kind of launch, organize a community-based program to be an extension of waste management, to be the experts on this and meet people where they are in our communities and groups. And so we're embarking on that program. We have the components, and we're going to be starting a pilot with Seaside, this Ocean Defenders, and they're going to be, because we need to start, that's one of the principles, to start with a pilot. And there's going to be 4 training sessions for this program. The first training session is really on this whole methodology. It's behavioral change, and what does it take? And there are a lot of concepts about that, and I'm going to be putting that together. Actually, I sent out to a lot of you the first pages of this, which is all the concepts. It's like a crash course on CBSM, which Janna went through 4 days of workshop. We're trying to putting it into some pages and then just change management. So that's the first methodology. But then the other 3 trainings are going to be do a tour, and as you could learn, it's just all depends on where you are and what you can put and where, and it's you have to be a wasteologist to understand. And so Waste Management has agreed to give us a really in-depth training session on the compost streams, what's accepted and what's not, and then the recyclable streams, because once you look at this waste, you have to look at it all. And then the third one will be just, all right, what's missing, you know, on the information and the help. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And I'm proposing that we even focus possibly our strategic planning retreat on, you know, on rolling this out, because it affects us all. It's very important. And the whatever initiative and focus areas, it could be more than one, that we decide to focus on a strategic planning session, we're going to be using this methodology of like, all right, how are you going to measure this? How are you going to, you know, communicate this? How are you going to have the visible commitment and things like that? So that's what we're working on. And I have to put together we have a Plastic Pollution Coalition list of people who wants to be informed and involved. And if you're not on that list, let me know, and I'll make sure that I keep you apprised of our progress on this program.
Any other questions for Janna?
Susan has a
Susan.
I just really wanted to thank Janna. Janna, this was super informative. I really appreciate it. There's so many great efforts that you guys are working through all the problems, and it seems like there's great momentum, and your presentation was wonderful.
It was amazing.
I want to especially express that because I know I'd approached Zoe Schotz even before the end of last year, and she said, you know, it's just too soon. We don't really have all the messaging together. But what I wanted it to be two-way, and I'm so grateful that Janna took the time to be with us this morning, so she could see what our organization actually is and how one of our challenges, but also one of our great strengths, as we are on the street. We are not centralized. We are not operating out of Monterey. We're not operating out of Salinas. I regret that we don't have more presence in South County, but because we have that contact with our communities, down to the neighborhood level, hopefully, as we get trained on these tactics to be effective in messaging and in getting people to change their behavior, that we will be an effective organization to help them get people on board with this. Because it's not a choice, it's a law. We don't have to lobby the legislature to pass this for us. It's already passed. It's on the books. Done. Now,
I love that you guys see it as a gift. That is not every meeting we have this is a gift to us.
Yeah, I'm sure you get some pushback.
And just
I'm sure.
some of you are getting into the regenerative ag and all of that work. One of our biggest problems that we see is the procurement of all of this compost. And once it's made, we have to resell it. So we have been working with a soil footprint. Soil zero footprint. I don't know. I could find the link, but they gave us an amazing presentation that also they looked at the micronutrients in vegetables grown in conventional fertilizers versus regenerative soils, and just the nutrients in the food itself was extremely different. And like like, oh, that makes sense. But then seeing the data was really impressive. Whoa. But if you see farmers, or if you're out in the community and you know people that want to do some of this work, they're working on a compost connector program. So somebody could go in and fill out a little form and say, I have 2 acres and I need this much compost, and I could pick it up, or I would need it delivered, or this and that. And then the cities can go in and say, we have 500 tons, we need to get it out. So then they can start connecting those dots and getting it out into the community. So we're working on things like that. And then also, I know Letty's well familiar with all of our projects, but some of you may know Estela Gutierrez, who is our master composter, worm lady extraordinaire. She has bold visions for this like 2.5 acre garden down in Gonzales. Since we'll be closing Sun Street, we want to have a better facility down there. So talking about seed bombs and all these things, my head is spinning. So if you have good ideas for locations to get bulk seed and do things like that, we want our garden to kind of look like behind Matt's head in that beautiful picture with all the lupin on native flowers and everything around. So please reach out and let us know if you want to help.
Additional questions for our guest? And I'll even broaden it to any comments that have gone by you or answers that have gone by you from anybody. If you want to repeat it now. And then I want to reiterate that we're going to have Matt transfer the recordings of the entire 2-hour meeting onto YouTube, and also just an encapsulated presentation tape of just Janet's presentation, so that if people say, oh, I really sorry I missed that presentation, can I still see it? We can have that without them necessarily needing to listen to the whole meeting. So look for that. If it's not sent out by Matt, I'll make sure that I send it out to you all.
Awesome. And for those of you in the districts area, Kristen O'Hara is the new education and outreach coordinator over there. I think probably when you reached out to Zoe previously, she was still wearing all the hats.
Right.
So now they have some new help, and she is willing and happy. I asked her about this, but she is out of town today. So she is willing and happy to come and give presentations as well.
Robin, you have a question?
Yeah. Are you partnering with Blue Zones, Janna?
Yeah. I know we've talked to Blue Zones. They have different areas as well. And I know that Mandy was just down in King City. They're doing some food recovery programs in King City. So we're working with them on figuring that out. I know they do cleanups all the time. We also, Kristen and I are part of the Monterey County Illegal Dumping Litter Abatement Task Force. And so all of these entities just seem to keep merging together. So we'll yes, we are.
Yeah, and I know I attended a food recovery workshop, and Blue Zones brought this this platform called Means. Have you seen that? It's called Matching Excess and Needs. It's really, really cool, where when any food provider or in those tier 1 and tier 2 that has excess would post it on a platform, and all the people who would be like Alan friends that would be, recipients, they would be checking it. There'd be an email sent, a text saying, this is what I have available, the pounds, and they'd claim it. And so it's just like an exchange for edible food. And it's really, really cool.
Yeah, so part of our big project, we should get this grant. It's not a competitive grant. It's just all of the cities can get a little bit of money, but we asked for the maximum amount of money. And if we're able to get that, part of that program funds would be to identify and purchase the best platform out there. There's Means, there's Carrot, there's several different entities popping up, because this is a state funded mandate or state required mandate, and everybody is scrambling to figure it out. So we're going to do a little bit of research and figuring out which the best one is, but Blue Zones is on that project, which is great. All the community partners we can.
Laverne, you had an additional question?
Yeah, I have an additional question. Janna, I'm interested in videos that you might have for kids on, disposing and waste, where things go and what people can do to recycle, what they can do, because they can educate their parents also. So if you have some that I could have access to or link, I would love that.
Yes, we have so many. So one of our best kid videos, we have a full tour of our landfill done by a 5th grader with our mascot Wally Wastenot. So that is the best one. We also have a whole distance learning section with like little snippets. Those aren't necessarily as much fun, but we do have all of the food waste things for what kids do at school and getting the schools trained up and ready to go. My computer is slow. And then we have some links for the entities that we provide them to come out to school. So Eco Hero is amazing. He does a little like DJ. He's a rap star. Does some fun stuff. And then also there's if you're working with schools, there's also the recycling wizard who comes out and does juggling and fancy acts. So
Cool.
I put our school teacher resources on there, and then also I'll link to our YouTube video that has some other stuff as well.
Okay, and you have the one that you said that was the best one. You put the link out there too?
To the tour, yeah. So there's, if you go to the tours, there's
Okay.
the kids tour.
Okay, I'll look in the chat. All right, thank you.
Janna, are you still doing tours of the landfill?
We are, thankfully it's outside, so we feel pretty good about that. We just need a little bit of notice, and depending on who's coming, you know, who you would like to have show up. If you want, you know, Letty usually gets the pro treatment because Patrick loves giving tours. So our general manager will come out to the team and do that, but we also, our staff can go out and give you a tour.
Yeah, I did it a few years ago, and it's really, really informative. I had a great time, and to see this place in person, the scope and the size of it is just, you can't imagine.
Yeah,
It's
and Robin,
huge.
you should check out, we have a full we have the full landfill tour, but also the little clips of each little section on our website as well. So there's a 15-minute tour from Patrick, and it does go over all the different services we have. So if you've never been out to our landfill, I definitely recommend it, and kind of get a feel for what we got going on.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to take a tour. It's really amazing. Thank you, Janna.
Lori?
Yeah, let me do a little more. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. The more you get into this, the more you learn. I mean, it really makes you realize that it's a zero-sum game. I mean, you can't put this in the compost, you can't put this in recyclable, so there's all the trash. And so I think the challenge for us is just reducing it, and, you know, and moving towards zero waste, not just, okay, you can recycle, you know, this recycle. It's just reducing and refusing stuff that has to be thrown away. There is no such place as a way, and that's what you learn in all these things. And I think the behavior change for us, it's just not where to dispose of, but just how to keep from getting it to, so you have to dispose it. So I think that's what this program really needs to focus on. The behavior change is just reduction and doing with it. So anyway, and only we can really do that. You can tell us where to go, but then you get the bad feeling. And so, like we talked about, there's no wish cycling. Somebody said, what's wish cycling? Oh, I hope it gets recycled. I hope it gets composted. And the more you learn, you know, it's sobering. And that's where we have to be there as a coach to help them say, yeah, it doesn't feel good. And
yeah. And I think a lot of that, unfortunately, comes from the fact that for years we told everybody, it's okay, you recycle it, give yourself a big pat on the back, you did a great job, but then only to find out half of the waste was getting shipped to other countries and maybe not done the best possible way.
And then now they say, oh, but it's compostable, but it's biodegradable.
Yeah, it's the same.
It's not, you know, and so
type thing that
we have to move to the reusables and reduction. So that's kind of the moral of the whole story that we're gonna end up with. It's a challenge. So,
well, thank you all. This was fun.
Oh, I'm so glad you were able to stay to the end. I know you have other commitments today. So
the game got rained out. So
no
well, today. So we get to
good fortune all the way around for both the ground and for us.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all. I know some people have already had to sign off, and I do want to end on time. Once again, I know that it's really, especially for board members who just went to another meeting last Saturday, that it's a kind of a heavy lift to make a commitment on Saturday morning to give up a couple of hours, but I'm always confirmed that it's a worthwhile use of time, and I don't know any other way that all of the organizations, all the LAGs can possibly exchange this volume of information, and especially when we have such a terrific guest speaker, get informed directly than doing this. Can we do it live again? Well, we'll see if the virus lets us do that. Stay tuned. I'm thinking maybe after our strategic retreat in June, we can maybe be emboldened to do a in-person event maybe in July. So we'll get that information out to you in a timely fashion, I hope, this time. And thank you again, every single person.
Thank you. Thank you,
all.
Janna.
Look for the link.
Okay, bye.
Bye.